In the vast expanse of Arizona's desert landscape, where the sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples each evening, lived a young girl whose spirit burned brighter than the desert sun itself. Sofia Martinez was 11 years old, born with a condition that had left her legs unable to carry her, but her heart carried dreams big enough to fill the entire southwestern sky. Martinez's family had been around for over a century. A small homestead with just a handful of cattle had grown into one of the most respected ranches in the state, spanning nearly 3,000 acres of rugged but beautiful land. Sofia's great-grandfather had built the first barn with his own hands, and now 4 generations later, the ranch was home to some of the finest cattle in Arizona. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. Sofia had been moving around in her wheelchair since she was barely 2 years old, zipping across the ranch grounds with the confidence of someone who had never known any other way of getting around. While other kids her age spent their afternoons playing video games or scrolling through phones, Sofia could be found outside, watching the cattle with an intensity that amazed everyone around her. Her father, Miguel Martinez, often told visitors that his daughter had something special about her. Cowboys who had spent decades working with livestock would stop whatever they were doing to watch Sofia approach a nervous horse or an agitated steer. There was something about the way she moved, the tone of her voice, the patience she showed that seemed to calm even the most restless animals. "That girl has a gift," Miguel would say, shaking his head in wonder. "I've never seen anything quite like it." But Sofia had one dream that made her father's stomach turn with worry. Ever since she could remember, she had been fascinated by the ranch's prize bull, a massive creature named Tornado. This wasn't just any ordinary bull. Tornado stood nearly 6.5 feet tall and weighed close to 2,200 pounds. His dark brown coat gleamed in the sunlight, and his presence commanded respect from every person and animal on the ranch. Tornado had come to the Martinez ranch 3 years earlier under difficult circumstances. A traveling rodeo had gone out of business, and many of their animals needed new homes. Most ranchers wouldn't even consider taking on a bull with Tornado's reputation, but Miguel had seen something in the animal's eyes that reminded him of his own daughter's determination. The bull had been mistreated during his rodeo days, and it showed. He trusted no one except Miguel, and even then, working with Tornado required extreme caution and usually at least 2 other experienced ranch hands nearby. The massive animal had never hurt anyone on the Martinez ranch, but his size and unpredictable moods made him dangerous to be around. Sofia spent hours every day positioned safely outside Tornado's enclosure, studying his every movement. She had filled notebook after notebook with observations about his behavior, noting patterns that even the most experienced cowboys had missed. She noticed that he was calmer in the early morning hours, that he responded better to quiet voices than loud commands, and that he seemed to enjoy the classical music she sometimes played on her phone near his pen. "Papa," Sofia would say whenever the subject came up, "I know I can work with him. I understand what he's trying to tell us." Miguel's response was always the same. "Mija, that bull is dangerous. Even for men twice my size and with decades of experience. I can't risk anything happening to you." But Sofia never gave up on her dream. She read every book she could find about bull behavior, watched countless documentaries, and even convinced her father to let her take online courses about animal psychology. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that Tornado wasn't the dangerous, unpredictable animal everyone believed him to be. "He's not mean," she would tell anyone who would listen. "He's scared and protecting himself. Look at the way he holds his head when strangers approach. He's not looking for a fight. He's looking for a way out." Rosa Martinez, Sofia's mother, watched her daughter's obsession with a mixture of pride and concern. She had always encouraged Sofia to pursue her interests, but this particular dream kept her awake at night with worry. "She's so determined," Rosa confided to Miguel one evening as they watched Sofia reading yet another book about animal behavior. "Sometimes I wonder if we're being too protective." Miguel sighed deeply. "I know she's capable of amazing things. I've seen how the other animals respond to her. But Tornado is different. One wrong move, one moment of unpredictability, and he couldn't finish the sentence. The ranch's head foreman, an older man named Roberto Santos, had worked with cattle for more than 40 years. He had initially dismissed Sophia's interest in the bulls as a child's fantasy, but over the months, he had begun to pay attention to her observations. "Señorita Sofia," Roberto said one afternoon, finding her reading near Tornado's enclosure, "you've been watching that bull for almost 3 years now. What do you see that the rest of us don't?" Sophia looked up from her book, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "He's not aggressive by nature, Roberto. He's defensive. There's a big difference. A truly aggressive animal attacks without warning, but Tornado always gives signal before he gets upset. He's actually trying to communicate with us." Roberto studied the massive bull, who was currently grazing peacefully about 40 feet away. "And what signals does he give?" "His ears move back first, then his head drops lower, and he'll stomp his front hooves exactly 3 times. Always 3 times before he shows any real aggression. But if you step slowly and avoid direct eye contact, he calms down right away. He's not trying to hurt anyone. He's just trying to protect himself." That afternoon, Roberto decided to test Sophia's theory. When feeding time came and Tornado began showing signs of agitation, Roberto watched carefully for the signals Sophia had described. Sure enough, the bull's ears went back, his head lowered, and he stomped his front hooves 3 times. Roberto immediately stepped back and looked away, and Tornado relaxed instantly. "Incredible," Roberto muttered to himself. "The girl is absolutely right." Word of Sophia's unusual understanding of Tornado began to spread around the ranch. Cowboys would seek her advice about difficult animals, and even visiting ranchers started asking for her input. But Miguel and Rosa remained firm in their position. Sophia could observe and study all she wanted, but she was never to enter any enclosure with the bulls. This restriction only strengthened Sophia's resolve. She began researching every method of animal communication she could find, from traditional training techniques to cutting-edge studies about the bonds between humans and animals. She discovered that some of the world's most successful animal handlers shared certain traits: patience, consistency, and most importantly, the ability to remain calm under pressure. "I can do this," Sophia told herself as she practiced breathing exercises designed to help her stay centered and focused. "I know I can." The opportunity Sophia had been waiting for came on a blazing hot August afternoon. Most of the ranch hands had driven into town for supplies, Miguel was in the barn treating a sick horse, and Rosa was inside the house preparing dinner. Sophia had been reading under her favorite mesquite tree when she noticed Tornado pacing restlessly in his enclosure. The bull seemed agitated, tossing his head and snorting. Sophia could see that his water trough had been knocked over, probably during his restless pacing. The afternoon heat was becoming unbearable, and Tornado was clearly showing signs of distress from the temperature. The nearest ranch hand was at least 20 minutes away, and Sophia could see that Tornado needed help immediately. She made a decision that would change everything. Rolling her wheelchair to the gate of Tornado's enclosure, she paused to steady her breathing and center herself, just as she had practiced hundreds of times. Tornado noticed her approach and turned to face her, but his posture wasn't threatening. It was curious, almost expectant. "Easy, Tornado," Sophia said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just here to help you." She opened the gate slowly, never breaking eye contact with the massive bull. Tornado stood perfectly still, his intelligent dark eyes focused on this small human who had never entered his domain before. There was no fear in her scent, no tension in her movements, only calm determination and genuine care. Sophia rolled her wheelchair into the enclosure, her heart pounding but her hands steady on the wheels. Tornado took one cautious step toward her, then stopped, tilting his massive head as if trying to understand why this small human showed no fear. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly, and Sophia could see beads of sweat forming on Tornado's dark coat. "I know you're thirsty and overheated," Sophia continued in the same gentle tone she had perfected over years of observation. "Let me help you feel better." She maneuvered her wheelchair carefully to the overturned water trough, using all her upper body strength to right it and position it under the automatic filling spout. As cool water began flowing into the trough, Tornado approached slowly, his massive hooves making surprisingly little sound on the packed earth. When the bull lowered his great head to drink, Sophia reached out and gently placed her hand on his neck. Tornado froze for just a moment, then continued drinking, apparently unbothered by her touch. The moment felt magical to Sophia, but she had no idea that someone was watching from outside the enclosure. Roberto had returned from the barn and was walking toward the equipment shed, caught sight of something that made his blood run cold. There, inside Tornado's enclosure, was Sophia in her wheelchair, calmly petting the most powerful and unpredictable bull on the entire ranch. Roberto's first instinct was to shout, to run toward the enclosure, do anything that might get Sophia away from danger immediately. But his decades of experience with cattle stopped him cold. He knew that sudden movements and loud noises could trigger an aggressive response from any bull, especially one as massive as Tornado. Instead, Roberto forced himself to